had a word on it. That's about it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this Delphi book that you were showing before, tell us about that. Is that the foundations, or is it more advanced concepts, everything?
Well, I just I mean, I could just read out the table. When I'm not quite sure what it meant by, you know, what one person's foundations is another person's advanced. But I mean, for instance, I do a lot on database stuff with Interbase. I do REST. I use TMS software components. I do machine learning. I do advanced graphics, creating your own components, Python for Delphi.
Okay, it's interesting that Paul isn't here. He should be listening to this list.
Sorry?
Paul?
Sorry, I was in the room.
Please.
I do.
So this is the contents of the book that Kevin's produced.
Yeah. I mean,
Cortex book, is it?
No. This is the how to program. I mean, I've been told. I mean, I'm going off to the Grey Matter organised Embarcadero conference in London on Wednesday, and lots of people have said to me, if you should have left off for A-level computer science because of that, which is how I originally started out intending to write the book for that audience. It looks as though it's elementary, but it's not. I mean, I do a lot on encryption, Bitcoin. I've got arguments for that. As I say, I do a lot of 3D stuff. I've got example. I do Arduino. So
go through that list again for Paul.
Okay. I mean, if you could share the screen, I could actually bring up a PDF of the book, and I could actually show you. But it may not be appropriate. But
Scott, it's just that Scott, I should have got Scott to make me a co-host, and I didn't think about it.
Do you want me to? If it's not too much trouble, I can.
Well, I don't think we can right at the moment. But
well, okay, that's fine.
Can we get to it via a link on from the web page? Does that have like table of contents or anything?
I don't think I did put that up. Let me just quickly.
How on a wee see? Is this a book that you're selling to people, or you donating
yeah,
to people?
sold all around the world. So from South America to Hanoi, whatever the modern name of Hanoi in Vietnam.
There's a number of subjects that you mentioned there, and I'm interested in 2/3 of it.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I'll be very interested in looking at it. Very interested.
In Australia, it's we do have printing facilities in Australia because I print on demand through Ingram Spark.
Now, do I recall you saying it had 1,200 pages? So this is a full size
pages. Book. Yes, it's got 1,200. It's I don't, the focus isn't.
Yeah, we can't see it when you hold it up like that's a blurry picture. Like you're really sharp, but when you hold the book up, it's really blurry.
It's the background.
Yeah, I know it's the background. It's taking its background and blurring. Let me just run through the table of contents. I go from programming contracts, introducing data types, then it gets on to regular expressions, and then in object-oriented programming, object referencing, it does pointers, encapsulation, inheritance polymorphism, aggregation, it does interfaces, network programming, encryption, hashing of Bitcoin, generics.
Kevin?
Yep.
Scott's going to rejig the settings for us so that we can do the screen sharing.
Oh, okay. Okay, shall I just carry on until it's possible? I do anonymous methods, sound, VCR, FireMonkey components, graphics, vectors and matrices, sensors, measuring time, introduction to OpenGL, more OpenGL game engines, OLE, Microsoft Excel, Word, Git, unit testing, installing packages, introduction to databases, SQL. Go through all of those. There are loads of pages. Introduction to database, to Interbase, low code and REST, FireDAC database programming, fast reports, database programming for mobile applications, REST programming, TMS software components. I do actually an Australian example, New South Wales, all the schools.
Okay, So let me ask you: have you got lots of code in there, and you write as
Yes.
well? You
Yes,
got lots of code in there.
loads. So you can download, every chapter has got codes with solutions.
Yeah, and you're as good a writer as Marco can too, at least.
Different style.
Different style, but are you as good?
That's not for me to say.
Yeah.
Kevin, have you got?
I'd be extremely interested in seeing it, mate. Extremely interested.
Buy the PDF, because the PDF is a lot cheaper, and I will set up a discount for the WADUG group. But as soon as I finish this call, I can set up it'll take me half an hour to set up a discount.
Do you want to share? Do you still want to share, Kevin? Because it should be good now.
Yeah. So you can have a look. So if I actually show you the contents of. So
I mean, we could email later or something, but we are giving away. We're giving away some books from Alistair Christie and from Dahlia at the symposium, and I'd like to be able to mention on the day, like promote your book, and at some stage along. So if there's a link or something, I will certainly put it out there to the people.
Okay. I mean, obviously the website, but if it's saying host disabled participant share,
67.
let me just
60.
just bring up. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the PDF.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
so I can bring it up. Wait a minute. So
years ago, when I first got into WADUG, there was something like 500 members.
So hang on, it's just wait a minute, a moment, silver play. So let's put up the final. So I've got the book up. So if I make that screen a bit bigger, so if it's possible to share, so it's saying host disabled, participant screen sharing. I'm not able to share. So
have a look in Russia. The toy, all the people there took this. And toys, yeah, in my head.
Sorry, try now, Kevin.
Okay. Oh yeah, brilliant. So got it?
English to make sure it's right.
Here we go.
So
ASA, what's that?
So this is the list of contents. So it takes it starts out with beginner, with the most elementary stuff. It goes through all the basic constructs. Then it goes on to object-oriented programming, and I've got a programming to interfaces example, the streams, network programming, encryption, hashing, and Bitcoin generics, vectors and matrices, graphs, sound applications, anonymous methods, OpenGL, OLE, Git, introduction to databases, data modeling tools for database design, project preparation, low-code wizards, FireDAC, database programming, REST programming, TMS, software components, web server, machine learning, advanced graphics, creating your own components, incorporating semi-8, Python for Delphi, Delphi to JavaScript, using Delphi with Arduino. So, for example, if I think this is it's got links on it, so I can.
Arduino Uno, does that mean we can code in Delphi for Arduinos?
Yes.
So
I didn't know that was available. Okay, cool, nice.
So page 1165.
There you go.
I had to install comport components to do that using Delphi with. So communicating with the Arduino Uno, click to turn on LED blinking. So I basically written a little simple program that just uses the comport. So comport right blink on. It's fairly elementary stuff.
But that doesn't.
No, it's not uploading to the Arduino. It's actually controlling it by the COM port. So it's not, you know, rocket science stuff. So you still have to go to and write a program on the Arduino that is going to accept the command. So yeah,
Right.
it's a long way. It's, you know, it's a same problem with the Raspberry Pi. You can't upload a compiled program to the Raspberry Pi in Delphi at the moment. There is a TMS have got a way of doing it, but if I but if I go back, so this my Australian example, because I went to the New South Wales Education Department site, and so I think there's an Excel spreadsheet you can download the names of all the schools and information. Sorry, I just put, and then I mapped that in. I think I used MySQL. I can't remember now. So so actually, it'd be easier if I went back to the list of contents. So.
Hey, I've got another question for you, Kevin.
Yeah.
How long did this all take you to do?
Oh,
like, you might have written the whole thing over 10 years, but like in terms of total hours, I mean hours rather than you know, gaps.
First of all, the high level view is 20 years of teaching Delphi to A-level students. I think it took me a whole year of concentrated working 5 days a week every day with, okay, probably I had 6 weeks holiday. But yeah, a whole year. But it was a labor of love.
That's what I would think, and to me it looks magnificent.
Well,
you're covering a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, because
I've been looking at how long the pages are on each subject, and it kind of makes sense. You get in and you give us the basics of how it works, and I'm looking forward to it, mate.
So it's the one thing.
How much is it to buy?
Sorry?
How much is it?
Okay, so if I let's go to the website. So the books here, so current publications, the where's my Delphi book? Oh, there it is. Yeah. So this is the UK price. There's an Australian price, but it's £59. Sorry, when I say there's an Australian, if you went to Amazon, because Amazon basically are now, they've put up their the minimum cut for them, which is 40% for us. But if you order directly from UK through this website, £59.99. The PDF is £30. So I can probably give something a 5% discount on that. So I mean, this is thank you for making one of the greatest for those that are wanting to learn Delphi. So I had good feedback, basically. So yeah, that if I'd love to show you the Australian example, because I'm quite wait a minute, hang on, got to get wow, what's gone wrong? Am I sharing the screen? Yeah. So so let's go back to
we've got this and we've got that.
the PDF. Wait a minute.
I think that might be
the PDF. So because for some reason the link is indexes, so I have to go to page 1023. So I want to go to
40 pages on it.
Where's the link?
So that's 9 ones in a row, yes?
Yeah, so 1023. I think I do steganography as well in the encryption chapter. Now this the South African schools, we did a summer boot camp in Barcadero, and they based it on this book. So sorry, I'm just bear with me just for a moment. I think you should get there to 1023. Here we are. So this is what I ended up doing using TMS, was to plot all what schools were I looking at. I think I was looking at middle schools for my granddaughter in New South Wales. Oh, sorry, no, location of 100. I limited it to 100. It's a long time since I did this. And I had to I had to map the Excel spreadsheet into a database.
So this
I
is the
think
one
I
we're
used
talking
MySQL.
about.
I use FireDAC to MS SQL database. So I used the TMS connections there, the Xdata server, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, that's what I ended up with in my MySQL database, was all the schools. I didn't. So the idea was, which I haven't done because this is just a teaching book. My idea is to actually be able to click on one of those little red markers, and up would come all the information for the school: who's the head teacher, how many pupils, what's the there's a score that New South Wales use to rate the school, and so on. You know, so I know quite a lot about Interbase because I taught it. My students did a lot of Interbase projects. So I've got, I think there's about 40 pages on Interbase. The Bitcoin one I did in some depth, working out the maths of it, showing the maths, etc. So is this appropriate for 16-year-olds? No, because it goes far too far. So, but I'd already pre-published I got the ISBN number and attached the title. You can, I suppose, change the title, but it goes out to bookshops and they know about it, and so on. To actually change the title, it's quite, so I stuck with that title. I don't make much money on the print version because it's so costly to print color, 1,200 pages. So, but yeah, so there you are. Yeah, so that's it. I think you're fed up of hearing me talk. So.
Well, give us a link, and you've got a sale, Kevin.
Okay. Well, yeah. So as I said, if you want your discount, definitely. But probably the best way of doing it is to go to the website, because you can pay by credit card, because I have an e-commerce site. So for instance, there's the secure checkout, basically. So you let me just so my books. So oh god, it's always the way, isn't it? So I'm trying to go to there. So for instance, if you want to direct purchase, e-commerce site, and this is where I'll set up the discount. And because of the EU, because I sell into the EU, I've got to account for VAT, and the VAT rate is almost different for every EU country. It's all 26 of them now. So I have to do this because my e-commerce site can't handle it. So I have to do a separate. So you would go there, do this, add to cart, and I'll take that off because, and then you go to checkout. And this is where you would check out securely, and then you would add the discount when you fill in, you know, all the details, etc. Oh, Fred, delivery details. Oh God, is that clever?
Go.
So a question
anyway,
for you, Kevin.
Yes.
How much is the book on assembler tutor?
That there isn't, but if that is a piece of software that is, it's about 20 years old, but it was written in C++. It was an ex-student of mine who did it as his third year undergraduate project, and it doesn't sell into schools in the UK now because the exam boards have changed the assembler which they use, but it's based on Motorola 68650
Oh no, I don't know in those codes, thank you.
yeah.
The Commodore 64 basic code in that back in the early 80s.
Yeah, no. But for teaching purposes,
in assembler.
Yeah, for teaching purposes, it gets across all the concepts, including interrupts, because it has demos for interrupts. The guy that did it for his third year undergraduate is now somebody quite senior because he emigrated to Norway because he married a Norwegian girl in the oil industry, working on the software side. Very, very, very able student. So yeah, I don't think you. I just, when I was tidying up the office, I just found something from 2003. This is from a teacher. Hi, I have moved school and cannot be without ASM tutor for my A-level computing students. So anyway, yeah, okay, but yeah, so yeah, so yeah, so you know, I will set up a discount. I will send you the discount, and I said a discount for everybody that goes to the WADUG symposium. You know, why not? I'll set it up, which is what it starts Friday, doesn't it? Is it?
It's just on Friday, yes, Kevin.
Yeah. So so they can, if they want to order the PDF. I can't give a discount on the print book because this profit margin is so small.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, okay, yeah.
If we order in Australia, does it get kind of printed
No, yes, it will get printed in Australia.
Right.
So
cool.
but the trouble is that, for instance, in the States, the costs of printing there are very high, much higher than the UK. I did print one for somebody in Australia a little while. I can't remember. I think the printing costs are higher in Australia as well. But Ingram Sparks have printing facilities all over the world, from South America, India, Europe, Australasia. So it saves on the post and packaging. But sometimes when you look at it, it's cheaper to print in the UK and ship to Australia.
Wow.
But you know, because it's the States they really rip off. The publishers over there maintain a very, very high price for book. So what if you paid, let's say, 30 Australian dollars equivalent in UK for a book, it will be 60 in the States, even though it probably costs for a big publisher about the same. I had a colleague who was the author of the Greenfoot system, produced a book, and he said he was embarrassed at the price they were charging US schools because it was printed in the US. There seems to be something about, mate, it's a cartel. I allege it's a cartel that keeps the prices high. Got to be careful.
Yeah.
So,
a question that, like, being in education, I don't know if this would be something that you've come across or not, but there is you mentioned Pascal ABC as a .NET, based thing.
Yes.
I happened by accident against a reference to Gardens Point Component Pascal, which was made by a university guy in Queensland.
Right.
So, and it has a website for it, and
Gardens. Perhaps if you could send me the link, I'd be interested. I talked a lot to Jim McKeith when he was the Embarcadero engineering chief advocate about how to get Pascal Delphi back into schools, and I mentioned this Pascal ABC.net. I paid a site to translate the Russian books because they are very good into English, but it didn't do it wonderfully. Algorithmic books. I mean, they're the sort of books you would say, now I understand why the Russians are such good hackers, because the rigor of the course that they're taught in Russia. I can remember the Russians when I went to the conference in Lithuania. These Eastern European countries, they are leagues above. They were at the time UK and US.
But the font that I was looking at before was in this serif before. It was much harder to read.
But as I said, I was talking to Jim McKee, which is how we ended up organising that summer boot camp 2023. But the trouble is, it's no good putting something out there. You have to get the get to talk and be able to persuade the movers and shakers. So I'll tell you how we changed the curriculum in this country, because the government minister at the time said he had a problem with the IT curriculum and he didn't know what to do about it. So Simon Peyton-Jones went to a meeting with him and waved our curriculum in front of his nose, and he said, fine, that looks good, that's rigorous, that's what we want. And plus the fact that Microsoft, the what's the name lecture, the annual lecture that's put on in the UK, the chief executive of Microsoft, just can't name, forget something, came along and wrote out a blank check also for the government, so that helped as well. But then you've got to persuade the government first of all, probably primary legislation, maybe secondary legislation, and then the exam boards and the regulator comes in and says to the exam boards, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. So if you want to get Delphi back in the curriculum, you've got to get control of the curriculum. So that is a political decision.
And
that's
and how have they responded to your book, Kevin? Have you put your book in front of them and tried to talk to them about that?
Zero, because nobody teaches Delphi in hybrid schools in the UK.
But it's not
by the time, let's say I had this idea a long time ago. It took me a year to write it, but a long time ago when I had the idea, Delphi was still being taught. But the other books that I published, so you won't see this either. This is AS Computer Science for AK Units 1 and 2. I got the exam board logo on it. So it's on the exam board's website. And I had to get a bid for a contract to get this against competitors, and they were basically they awarded 3 contracts. So my publishing company was up against the big ones, but the big ones want to make money, so they write a very thin book which is very superficial. I'm a small publisher, not out to make a lot of money, but I wrote a book that was rigorous and in depth, where I've sold a huge number. A lot to the independent sector, which have, let's say, I don't know but students that like the academic rigor, and because they do the international GCSE and they do the A level, but I don't make a lot of money out of it. But the big publishers want to make a lot of money out of it, so they make it very thin, very superficial, and that dumbs down the curriculum. So it's the whole thing is self-fulfilling. Big publishers get involved, they publish the books, and then you can't ask anything on an exam paper which hasn't out there in a book. And if the books aren't rigorous, the exam papers won't be rigorous. But having said that, the regulator has stepped in and said, no, the exams must be rigorous. So it has changed a little bit. But it's just so political. And of course, if you make the exam too difficult, if you make the curriculum too hard, then it gets a reputation as being a difficult curriculum. So it's a difficult exam board. We'll go to another exam board. But there is a level playing field, because we all had to develop the exams syllabus. We call it specifications here, to a common core. So to try and make sure everybody, at least, like students can be examined on the common core, and then the bits that differentiate the different offerings and different exam board slightly different. But when we have this movement that an exam should be accessible to everyone, so we had GCSEs which dumbed down, and now most of the academic schools have abandoned GCSEs. They become academies, and they do something called the international GCSE, which is harder, which is what the standard of the old examination, which used to be mainly independent and grammar. So selective system, terrible system because it's semi-elitist, if you like. But whenever you try and have a level playing field, you end up, you're meeting the bottom ends requirements, but you're disadvantaging the top end. And if you're disadvantaging the top end, these are your future captains of industry and computer science programmers.
Like in school here in Australia, that a high level and lower level math.
Yes.
And then you could choose not math, which I think was a very unwise option to have. But the same thing should go with computing. I mean, explain to people that you use math everywhere. You can't not use math in your life. Same as literacy. and computing is getting that way as well to a degree. I mean, there are going to be arguments. People say, "Oh no, you just use an AI for everything." Well,
no,
doesn't quite work that way yet. It's been overblown. But yeah, maybe in 20 years' time, but certainly not now.
No, I mean, one of the interesting tidbits I picked up from working with Microsoft research in the UK was how small the team in Microsoft that actually does the hardcore, the operating system. You know, most of the Microsoft stack. It's a very small team, but they are super brilliant, and their productivity is very, very high. And then you have what is called the corporate side, which is all the salespeople that also earn a lot of money from commissions and so on. But then you have a lot of bespoke software people, independents, because software needs fixing. You know, it needs updating. Not everyone is going to be on board with the AI. And can you trust the AI? ChatGPT.
Well, before Embarcadero and all the other variations, the old Borland days, they had a very small team. The team that wrote Quattro and a few of the other things were very, very small. I was talking to the guys who came out, and they said, "Oh yeah, the team's only about 5 people." He said, "We've got about 20 on the team, but they're all testers and documentation people. But the team actually write are quite small." And I think that's the secret with good software. If you have a huge team, you can't get it right. There's a certain level that you can't go beyond, and if you can keep it small and tight, you can write really good software.
No, absolutely, because while you can communicate across the desk with other members of the team, when the team grows too big, it's communication by email, and So
though where I'm working now, there are, I think, there are dozens of people working on the same very, very large project.
Yes.
And it's been around for like over a quarter of a century now, some of the oldest code. And considering it's in pretty decent shape, however, you get some really, really like cringy architectural mistakes because people just don't know enough.
Yes.
And our daily meetings, I mean, my team lead sits next to me. And right now, the third guy in my little team is he's in Japan, but he says, and you know, we're on Teams because that's more convenient for the screens. I'm looking at them going, come on, guys, we're right here. Can we just, no, never mind. I'll put my headset on. Yes, fine. It's just, am I old? Or what is this?
Kevin, I've got something that I might like to suggest to you. But first, before I actually say it, could you possibly go back to giving us a view of a page of your book, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Just any old page that's got just normal, stuff and printing and writing on it. Yeah. Now, are you able to blow that up a bit, because I'm concerned about the font? Yeah, see, the font you're using, that's a lot more difficult to read than good old Arial. Everything that I copy down, I whatever it's got, whatever it is, I change it to Arial. And now what you've got there, like great content stuff, yes, but it's harder to read because of the font you got. My suggestion to you would be to change everything to Arial.
That's a good shit. I had options at Times New Roman. Did I have option of Arial? Well, when I was thinking about what to use, not what is available, but what I was thinking about, and I went in the end with Adobe Garamondi Pro. I've had problems with the fonts and books that I wrote on an earlier machine with the font not being available on a later machine, and this is just my incompetence. My IT.
Really?
So you
sounds a bit basic.
Sorry?
That sounds a bit basic.
Well, yeah, I know. So I struggled to try and update the fonts on this new machine, and I wasn't able to resolve it. Now that's just my IT incompetence, which is what you expect from a physicist. I'm not really an IT
Oh, go on, mate. You're just making excuses.
Yes.
To me, you've got to be able to read it, and the easier it is to read, the faster, you better. The eye doesn't have to sort of trouble itself to work out what that letter with that letter is, because it's got what you've got has got all these little twists and curls that just adds to it, rather than keeping it at a minimalist view, which is what Arial is.
You know, I wish I'd been a member of this group earlier, because I'd have posed that question. How do I install it? And you'd come back with the answer straight away.
I'm sure a man of your talents could solve the problem in 5 minutes flat.
No, my weakness is I don't like asking for help. I like to work everything out myself, and that is a weakness.
Yeah, okay.
This is why it takes me twice as long to do anything, because I'm not very good at owning other people's input.
Our other Scotters come in for a late landing.
Yeah. Pardon?
Oh, hello, Scott. How you doing?
How you doing? Yeah, not too bad. Sorry, I was working late.
Yeah,
no problem.
Are you doing on the Friday?
I'm going to be watching it from home if I can, because I can't afford the time.
Yeah.
What is the time at the moment in Perth?
At 9 p.m.
Okay, yeah. So it's just
about time I head off. So I might just bid you good night.
Yeah. Very, very nice talking to you.
Yes, thanks, Kevin. Those are really interesting topics. Thanks. I mean, like, for me, they were very interesting topics.
Let's talk again in the future. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, take care.
Cheers.
Okay,
all right. Yeah.
All right. See you later, Pete.
Cheers. See you.
Take care, Pete.
Thanks, Peter.
Ciao.
So Paul, you've had quite a busy 2 days, because you were up talking at the UK Delphi developers meeting. God knows what hour it was in Perth.
Yeah, your midday till 5 translates to 7 to midnight.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay.
Which isn't too bad. And I don't know if you noticed, I got to about the 11 p.m. and was supposed to start talking and realized, oh crap, I hadn't done like the preparatory work for our family business that is supposed to get other people working. And I was like, please hang on for 5, like, talk amongst yourselves for a second.
Oh, God, that's the last thing you want to happen when you're about to present. It's to have to switch your mind to something. Hey, it was fine. You've done a lot of thorough research on null type. In Cortex Pascal has a null type, from my recollection. Some were buried in there, and that flagged up. I need to look a bit more at that to establish how come it's got it in Cortex Pascal, but it's not in Delphi at the moment, or they're just planning it. Am I right in saying?
Well,
they've been talking about it for ages.
Yeah, a long time. And
I thought it must be Delphi. I've never used it, to be quite honest. So
it's not in. Maybe 2010 or something, way back.
Yeah. Okay.
So far back, we had a roadmap for the product.
Right.
Yeah. We do have something similar in Spring collection.
Yeah.
So
yes.
If you put in Spring,
Paul mentioned it. Yeah.
It's nullable, but they've changed nullable in version 2, and now it works completely different.
Oh, really?
Yep. So version 1, you actually use the null, but in version 2, you have to use nil instead.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. He had a blog post about that. That was part of
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I had no core to use it, basically. So that's why I've seen it in the Cortex Pascal. And I thought, well, it must be in Delphi. And so not come across it, but
yes. So
yeah.
I mean, it's like the elevator pitch version of what I was talking about last night is basically like you can have data types that have, you know, have null in them, like pointers and,
Yes.
you know, things that are essentially pointers, like our classes and,
Yeah.
I don't know, interfaces, I guess, and stuff like that. And then you have to have this strategies to deal with null safety.
Yes.
And then on the other side, there's like a dichotomy, because then there's another, what you might call optional type, which says, I will take the entirety of a particular type, whatever, out of the language,
Yes.
and kind of put an on-off switch to it,
Yeah.
which will allow it to be present or completely absent, which is kind of a different thing. And I mean, I don't have all the answers. I was just trying to reason through it, and I really only got like kind of halfway to that through that process. But
Yeah.
it was.
I followed most of it, so I mean, it was very obviously. You've obviously done a lot of research, but because I'd not used it at all, it was fresh territory for me. The category theory bit, I've started to try and get my head around it, but I mean, I bought some books on it, and it's one of those things where you have to get the right book before the light bulb moment when you see what it's about, because a lot of books are, yeah, you know, they talk about it, but very theoretically, as if you're already converted and steeped in its concepts and so on.
Yeah, I recommend YouTube basically. People have made some really good content.
Yes.
Most of the books are for mathematicians, and
Yes.
so they talk about mathematics.
Yeah.
The Bartosz book is trying to talk to programmers,
Yes.
but again, it's still difficult. Lots of people have said, you know, like I tried to come to this and I've bounced off it so many times. I was just completely fortunate. It's kind of terrible to say that COVID was a benefit in the sense of having access to all these different meeting groups and stuff all over the world. And there was a group of really good people reading through this book and then trying to and getting together on a fortnight to nut over like, what the hell does this mean, you know? So
I remember dipping in and out following. I saw your email thread, or when it was on, I can't remember where it was. I think I did pick up on that YouTube video you recommend. I think it was the one I had a look at, and I thought I need to find, you know, a quiet hour and I sit down and think about this, because it's not sort of a quick 5 minute. So I will. I always remember I went to a conference, a computer science conference of people from university. I was the one person from schools, the education sector, and this guy got up and he said the way he said what he said was he was proud of the fact that he didn't program. He was a mathematician. He just thought about algorithms all the time. So when I saw category theory, I just think, this is a mathematician, you know, with trying to be a mathematician and then seeing possibly there's an application in the computer science for programming or something like that. All the people trying to explain it, as you say, are mathematicians, and they delight in, you know, stretching their intellectual mathematical neurons in a particular way that the general population.
I just think they're so used to writing things so densely that, like, the thing that the thing that we spent literally, I mean, you know, there was some breaks in it and that sort of thing, but like 18 months going through like maybe 18 chapter book or something. I mean, it's not that big. Or probably like a 12 chapter book or something. it probably wasn't 18 months, maybe it was 12 or 13 or 14 or something, with Christmas in the middle and all that sort of thing. And even that book really, like, there's towards the beginning, like, it starts off nice, then he talks about like almost an atomic, it's like, you know, talking about atomic theory if you're trying to learn chemistry, instead of just putting like blue and green chemicals together to make it fun. There are bits there that I would skip for like a beginning introduction to the idea. I mean, there's the idea of like a monoid.
Yes.
It's like a category that only has one point in it. That's kind of like the hello world for category theory, really. And I think people should get to that quickly. Try and think about that particular anyway. But
no. But this is the as you say, with somebody who is mathematically, mathematical professional, they have a rigorous frame of mind, and they're not used to bringing things down in simple ways that break that rigor. But to get something across, you try and strip out everything that you would normally put in, because you know you're being judged by your fellow professionals. Therefore, you got to be very careful. But for the general public, you need a simple example, as you say, a monoid, with an example to get the point across, and then you can start building the rest of the stuff, the advanced stuff, on the basis of that.
The funny thing is, if you can grab, a mathematician on their own, like, in a like in the tea room of a meeting or something or other, or even in some lectures, some people are really great of taking their students and saying, here's this thing, and putting it in like it's a ball, and it full, like they can do that. But when it comes to writing down a textbook, it goes into robot mode or something, like.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, but most computer people aren't good communicators anyway. Most of them.
Probably, I guess.
Well, depends whether they're communicating through code.
Yes. Talking to machines.
Yeah, that's very true. A lot of computer people are like that. They kind of work on a different plane. It's very difficult to talk to a customer through one of those guys, because they just make a hash of it. They just leave them flabbergasted, a bit like the mathematician.
Yeah, I can remember when I worked in Marconi's that we were very selective about who in the group went out to talk to customers. So I mean, the example that always springs to mind is Richard Feynman, who was an excellent communicator.
Oh, Feynman,
Richard Feynman. Sorry, beg your pardon.
One of my favorite scientists.
But a very, very famous. I always remember at the shuttle that blew up when it was launched in cold weather conditions, and he had to go and give evidence at a Senate committee hearing, and he took along some. It might have been liquid nitrogen in a flask, and some nitrile rubber O-ring, big rubber O-ring, and a hammer, and he put the rubber O-ring into the liquid nitrogen in a thermos flask and Dura flask. It's on the desk when he was cleaning it, and tongs obviously with or gloves to pull out the frozen O-ring, and then he hit it with a hammer, and it became brittle, and he just shattered. And that's what happened. But he brought along an illustration to try and bring it down to the level of non-scientists, so it could communicate. And that's any physicist that's worked in low temperature physics, that's the bane of their life. I mean, they're taking their Dura, big cryostat down to liquid nitrogen temperatures full, and you've got to be very careful not to put too much liquid nitrogen in, because the O-ring at the top, with you put your measurement kit in, and it sits on an O-ring, because if that O-ring gets cold, it'll become brittle and you'll break the vacuum seal. And then you might have got it down to liquid nitrogen temperature, and now you're pumping it down to liquid helium temperatures, 4.2 K, and then you put too much liquid in it, and it takes 24 hours for the whole cryostat to warm up, and then you see, and so it's an elementary thing, and it was, the story of it is they were cutting corners, and as a result, people lost lives. So yeah. Sorry, my stories always get a bit long-winded. So
no, but you did right.
Yeah, well, that sort of kind of blew the world away, that one, didn't it? Yeah, I saw the takeoff and everything, and it blew up. I thought, holy cow.
Yeah.
Good golly, Miss Molly.
Yeah. So, but I see he was an excellent.
But the roof, before the thing went off, there was a number of protests about the rooms, but the protests from several people were overridden by the
management.
The management, like, let's get this thing on the road.
Yeah. So I think it was a management decision. The technical people were saying no, we shouldn't do this. And it was all to do, I don't know, with contracts.
But that's the trouble with management, like, I'm into cranes, I'm a crane driver as well as everything else. And there was a big crane accident in the United States where they're building a sports stadium, and they had something like 40 or so roof sections, and each roof section weighed 450 tonne. And they had a 2,000 tonne crane to lift them in, and half the job was done. And on this particular day, the wind speed was 22 knots. The crane was only specified to do it at 20. So, the crane driver said, "No, I can't lift this. I'm not allowed to." And but the boss on the job said, lift it now." So anyway, they lifted it up in the air. The crane blew over, and it's flying shit everywhere. And one of those pieces of shit flew up to 200 feet in the air and hit 3 guys in the man cage. They were all tipped out of it, and they were all killed. And that was brutal. And that was management that did that. It didn't need to happen, but that's management, and that's what you find in an awful lot of projects. The boys do their bit. Everyone wants to make it work. But management decisions and idiots at the top, mate, they're the biggest problem that any business has got. It's not the guys on the ground; it's the guys at the top.
The accountants and so on. Yeah. So Boeing is having problems at the moment. Right. Obviously because whatever they're trying to cut costs, and it's alleged that they're cutting corners and so on, and But So.
And Intel have had the same thing as well. They've had a useless leader, whereas AMD have got a brilliant leader.
Which company? Sorry.
AMD.
AMD.
The chip manufacturer.
The AMD.
Yes. Well,
their leader is a PhD in electronics, whatever it is. I just forget. And he's guiding the design. Top man, doing a top job, still running the company in his boots, and he does everything. Whereas the guy that's been running Intel is a bean counter.
Yes. Yeah.
He's not a very Bill Gates or a Paul Allen type of guy.
Yeah.
So Intel has lost its way.
The industry.
Yeah. Intel has lost its way.
Yeah.
Talking about something that you guys might not be aware of, the big talk at the moment is we're up against the Moore's limit, and we can't had an awful lot of trouble getting to 5 gigahertz and all that sort of stuff. Yes. Well, there's a number of materials that they've been looking at for 5 years at least, and now one of them I'll mention to you is graphene, and graphene is running at 100 gigahertz. Yes. And they've got a chip. This is 3 years ago. They had a chip with 30,000 transistors in it, and the future they see as a limit on it would be 1 terahertz of clock speed.
Yes.
So that's 200 times faster than what we got now. Faster by 200 times.
Yeah.
So that's the future we might have in front of us.
Yeah.
And graphene's one of these wonder materials that does everything, and it's going to save the world. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, single atom layer
Yeah.
device. Yeah,
I can't see how it works actually, because carbon's got a valency of 4, and that's the hexagonal 4 equal bonds going out, which makes
Yeah.
diamond of that really tough, you know. So how do you get a thin sheet of stuff like this? Where's the fourth one going to? You got 3 coming in, but what's the fourth valence electron supposed to do? So I can't see how. Yeah, theoretically, I can't see why it's as strong as what it is, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Okay, with carbon nanotubes, that's where you actually get your electron flow from, that extra electron. But in what is it, graphene or what have you, I think it forms a double bond with one of its neighboring carbon.
A double bond. I've never heard of that one. But that would answer
You've
the
never heard of
question.
double bonds and triple
Oh,
bonds?
yeah, of course I have, Scott. Come on, mate. Of course I have. But like, that's one answer to it. Yeah, but you never see that on diagrams of graphene. You never hear any talk about that.
No,
But that would certainly be an answer. Yeah. Yeah. So graphene's got a big future, and another thing that you can do with it is you can have salt water on one side and pass it through the graphene, and out the other side there is only water. Nothing else will pass through. A water molecule will pass through, but nothing else. So straight away, the world's, like for poor countries and, mucky rivers and all that sort of shit, you can fix them with graphene. And one of the biggest problems it had was how costly it was to produce. Like, it was super duper expensive. But some guy about 2 years ago found some way of manufacturing it super cheap. So much so they can make rolls of it like 1 metre wide and 100 metres long.
Yeah, that's James Tour.
Very cheaply.
I've been following him online. James Tour he's got like dozens of patent groups. Guy's an absolute legend.
Where do you see that sort of thing, Scott?
Oh, just look up James Tour. He has a YouTube account, but he's got like 90 something patent groups to his name. Patent group meaning the same. He doesn't count a patent that's like in Australia and the US and the UK if it's all the same one.
Yeah.
So he's calling each group, each unique patent, a patent group. And he's like got 90 of these things.
Yeah, well, that's why patents are a whole lot cheaper now. Like, when I first looked at them from what I'm doing, it was something like $500 for one patent in one country. But the way it is now, so it was going to cost me $100,000 to get the patents I was looking at. But now they've got a whole something like or 3/4 of the countries of the world are now in together in one big group, and you can multi-group your bits as well. So if you want to apply for a patent on the colour, the position, and the type, and the metal, and all this, you can group them all together and do the whole lot for only a few $100s. So it's come the cost of patents has come down by a massive factor.
Scott, what was the guy's name?
James Tour, Dr. James Tour.
I'll put this.
Second name.
I'll put it in the chat. I'll put a link in the chat.
Yep.
Oh, thanks.
Tour.
TOUR, is it?
Yep.
And it's 100 times stronger than steel, and it's also lighter than feathers off the wings of a bird. The floats in the air.
Graphene.
Yep. Graphene.
Oh, sorry. Just by the way, Kevin, I way before I put that link to the Gardens Point component Pascal in the chat as well. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
There is a development on the laser
front. Fusion.
Laser fusion is now gone. It's been at the break-even stage. I don't know, a few months ago. It's now producing more power than what it requires to get it to operational performance. It's now producing a positive.
Yeah. No. I'm thinking about a solid-state laser device, which is based on putting micro channels into a material.
Oh, okay. Sorry, didn't know where you're going with that. Yep.
Yep. So, and it based on the stimulated emission, but multiple reflections and so on. But the different modes can generate different wavelengths. But the way they've crafted the microtubes is such that they suppress all those except one particular mode. So it's one particular frequency, and also connected with the way that the microtubes channel these alternative modes. It also dissipates some of the heat that would build up if you tried to raise the power level. But its monochronicity is very high, and its beam divergence is very low. And the paper that I read said that actually they're mirroring the way in which the feathers of a peacock generate the iridescency, the different colors, and so on. Because when examined microscopically, they actually have found these microtubes, which whatever however you describe them, nanotubes or whatever there might be, that are present in the feathers of peacock feathers. So again, technology is now mirroring nature. So the advantage is that they can produce relatively high powers at a very narrow range of wavelength and a very narrow divergence in a very small space. So it's a, the issue that solid state lasers has is that you've got to get rid of the heat, but the way that the technology works, it enables much higher power without this heat side effect. And I can't remember the name of the researcher, but there were actually two, I think, that one had been working on the theory and one was in Italy working on the theory. But it's the big growth area ever since graphene, the big growth area. Oh, I don't need a box page. It's in thin films. I remember coming across the Russian paper that worked out all the diffraction theory for stealth aircraft, but it hadn't, the theory wasn't being applied to stealth aircraft. It was basically being applied to edges, and the Russian scientific director didn't see any technological advantage, and so they published the research paper online, and the Americans picked it up and developed the actual stealth technology from it. But there is a connection with thin films because of the way in which electromagnetic radiation diffracts through thin films. So I think if you look at a lot of the patents around thin film technology, a lot of them are military, so you can't actually read the specifications because of the important, and it's ironic. I can remember I went to the Computer History Museum in Mountain View in California some years ago. We had an exhibit which was the early airborne warning system that the Americans had, and they extended its life another 20 years. It was valve based, but they'd stopped manufacturing these specific valves in the States, but they extended the lifetime of this another 20 years by sourcing the valves from behind the Iron Curtain by third party companies that masked the ultimate destination. So they went from West Germany, I think, to East Germany, and then to Russia. So the American early airborne warning system against nuclear missiles was actually powered by Russian valves for 20 years without the Russians realizing.
So they literally went into a car park to some guy in a trench coat saying, "Psst, want to buy a valve?"
Yeah. Yeah, what do you want it for? I got an old radio back home I want to fix. It's not working any longer. These valves will do the trick. So, yeah. Well, it's just like a lot of the drone technology, solid state stuff is going through third party countries, aren't they? To Russians that they're using in Iran and so on. So even though they're embargoed, yeah, stranger things happen at sea. But
Well, I tell you, one piece of trickery that impressed me was Iran, that was running a nuclear program to refine uranium and all that stuff,
Yes.
and make their own atomic weapons. Well, the Yankees managed to put all the software, so the software running the whole system would sort of be inefficient and sort of shut itself down and cause troubles, and like not be as productive and do the right thing, and the fact that they managed to do that, to me, I think it's just wonderful. Because it worked for like years and years before it got discovered.
Built up trust.
And I thought, well, holy moly, that's the way to do it, isn't it?
What was the virus called that they activated? I can't remember what it was. Not Love Beat, but I know. I remember it was So they had a backdoor into the software, which the centrifuge software.
That's the one. Yeah. I thought that was pure trickery, that one, and it went all around the world. The world was impressed.
Yeah. So in their infinite wisdom, the UK government decided that they would install Chinese manufactured equipment into their fifth generation mobile backbone, and until they had the warnings from you guys and from the States that you were lending yourselves open for some sort of attack from China, because they wouldn't be stupid enough not to have left a backdoor into the system. So we cancelled the Huawei contract and stopped going down. I mean, it's got. I mean, all these microchips and software that's going into cars now is hackable. So electric cars and so on, and also potentially you don't know what purposes the software could be put for in cars. So
well, cars are another one. I believe the lines of code in a car is millions.
Oh yeah.
Like a jet fighter, like what are you doing with 1 million lines of code in the car?
Yeah, I know. So how rigorously has it been tested? Are you putting your life on the line? And have you got 3 computer systems that are checking against each other and voting on what is the right decision? No, I don't think so. So
that's the one.
Has everyone seen this graph?
I've seen it.
I'm sure
down the bottom is Google, and they've got 2 billion.
It's nowhere near new, so I'm sure lots of people have seen it. But I'm always really impressed to see the Google bit down the bottom.
This is a number of lines of code. The software is on the left. Simple iPhone game, 1 million lines of code here.
I realise I can just share the screen. That's what we do, right?
Oh yes.
A bacteria has got 1 million lines of code in its brain. An F-22 Raptor fighter jet has got 1.7 million lines of code.
So can people see this graph?
Yep.
I mean, like I say, I think you will have all seen this.
This is Windows 3.1 here.
Yeah.
And we get down to the Linux kernel and World of Warcraft.
And there's Google Chrome. How many is that got, Paul?
Yeah.
6.7.
Yeah, I see it.
The Chevy Volt at 10. Is it million? Are we in millions now?
Yeah, this is 10 million. Yeah.
And MySQL and the
Windows NT, what's that? 3011.
Yeah.
787, Windows 2000.
A Boeing 787, 14 million lines of code.
Facebook, blah, blah, blah.
Windows XP, 40 million lines of code.
And then, boom, Google.
That's
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Car software. It is 100 million. Yeah. Right here. Car software. 100 million lines of code.
Yeah.
Oh, how do you get 100 million lines of code in a car? Tell me.
Is that the auto driving ones?
No, it's I don't know whether it's all inline.
This graph dates back to.
Oh yeah, this is old. This one. Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah.
2015. So it's 8 years old. This graph.
Hey, hey, Kevin, would you know the biggest Delphi project? Like, I remember 10 years ago reading about some guy that had 4 million Delphi lines of code in a project, And another guy replied saying he had 10 projects that had 4 million lines of code. And there was one guy that had 1 million lines of code in one unit. And those are the only records, big ones that I'm aware of. Do you know any big ones yourself, sir?
Shakespeare wrote some beautiful stuff in minimum code. That's what lines, and that's what we should do.
1 million lines of code in one unit, Delphi would
Yeah.
fall over.
And he was having trouble with it, and there was half a dozen guys all said the same thing. You need to split it up, mate. You've got to separate it.
I can remember missile homing heads. You were not allowed to use subroutines because you were not allowed to have a call stack. Because if you got stack overflow, you would lose the missile system, and God knows what it would do because you wouldn't be able to control it. And they're quite expensive, so all the code had to be in line. So I can see how a small program with lots of subroutine calls could end up being a very large program if you replaced every subroutine call with inline code. So
that would be gross.
And the other thing is it's fast as well. If you write sharp, small code, it's quick.
But I mean, I go back a few years to an Interdata 716 mini computer that had 64K of memory, and we wrote a multitasking, multi-access operating system where you exploited overlays. So when you were compiling, so basically you shared the compiler and the editor, but the compiler was split up so it was partitioned in a way that the partition could operate independent of the module. So we were relying upon overlays. So you only had a certain amount of memory for the part of the compiler, and then when you needed another part of the compiler, another partition had to be overlaid into that physical.
How did you do research for Delphi program with longest lines of code, most lines of code?
Paul, you might want to shut your audio off, will you?
Yeah, sorry.
Go on, Kevin, what were we saying?
Oh, just saying about that in the good old days when you had very limited memory, you relied on tricks like overlays. So your software was partitioned. Although it was a monolith piece of software, it had the ability to be able to split so that a sub partition would fit the available physical partition of the memory when you had 64K. So that the compilation would take place in stages where you'd be fetching in the different parts of the compiler and overlaying the same physical memory space.
Yeah, I remember those horrible days.
You do, or you don't?
I do.
So
I can remember the first version of Ball and C. You had to position everything on the screen. You said none of this fancy stuff where you could just plonk it on. You had to count the pixels and.
I remember we came in one morning, and so to boot up this board, obviously we were writing. You had switches on the front of the mini computer where you set the sector address of the boot loader, bootstrap loader. And the guy who was responsible for that part of the code came in one morning. He must have had a lot of drink tonight, and he couldn't remember the switch settings. So we there half an hour trying to find where the address that we're using for the bootstrap load that then load and then auto load the rest of the operating system. So you
the good old days.
Yeah, you also had lights on the front of the machine, so you could tell when the CPU was how fast it was running. So how many tasks it was multitasking, because when it was idle, the lights would be going like that, and when it was working, they're going to be very slow. All visuals.
When I was going to uni at University of New South Wales, when we couldn't run Fortran, we ran a thing called iitran because we got a cheap computer given to us, and we had to sort of scale it back to run a version of Fortran on this iitran thing, and that was and that was the old punch card days. So
we had paper tape, but as an undergraduate, I used punch cards, but I think it was a great advance when I worked with had a paper tape reader. So
it was a great technological breakthrough, wasn't it? Tape reader.
I learned the origin of the ASCII code for the Dell key because it's 127 because in a 7-bit, laterally across the paper tape, you were punching into 7 positions. So if you wanted to obliterate a character, you punch holes in all 7 positions. So that's your 127, and that told the reader to ignore that particular value. So you could do your hand delete with a needle.
With a needle.
No, so you want to be really cruel, somebody's program. You
debugging needle, was it?
Yeah. So now we get oodles of main memory and we complain because Mac, which is right, I've when I'm late, it doesn't have enough main memory, so I'm going to have to switch from another Mac because they won't. It's so difficult to upgrade the memory. You have to buy a new, but you do get a trade-in value. So, and I can remember we had a maintenance contract on the mini computer. That was a lot of money, and the maintenance, an external contractor used to come in with a big roll of sticky tape, and all he used to do was a piece of sticky tape going on top of the Winchester disc, just sticky tape up the dust. And we were paying, except one day there was a road contractor outside that severed the main power cable, and the mini computer went down and damaged a lot of internal components. So that's when the maintenance contract proved its worth, because they had to replace all these boards. With the main memory was magnetic core, little ferrite rings. But you see him going along with the sticky. Yeah. Well, that's how the guys made their graphene, wasn't it? With sticky.
They say if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid.
Yeah. The thin film guys in the lab next to where I did my work, they had one of these rubber rollers, and they used to rub out, make their thin films just by rolling the roller across, like you're making pastry. But they also had electro deposition, whatever, as well. But so that guy was the head of the group, very, very bright guy. Ended up being the president of the Institute of Physics. He had about 150 patents to his name because he got in when thin films. This was back in 71, 72, when thin film research was a new research territory. And then he ended up doing a lot of work for the MOD in films. So what he doesn't know about thin films isn't worth knowing.
Amazing place. Yeah, I heard you say that you worked for Philips at one stage. I worked for Philips too in their applications laboratory in Sydney, and we had a diffusion facility in Hendon in South Australia. Yeah, back around about that time, in the 1970s, early 1970s, and when the Labor government came in, they said, "Oh no, we don't need semiconductors made in Australia. We'll buy them for overseas." Whole place was shut down. Everybody went off to Silicon Valley.
Yeah, that's amazing. Sure, I mean,
we could have been in a different position completely here.
Yeah. No, I worked for the telecommunications division on stored program control telephone exchanges, and they made their own solid state switches, CMOS switches from their plant in Holland, Hilversum, I think, Eindhoven, and so they were replacing the read relay switches by these integrated circuit switches, and parallel planes, and basically writing the software to do the switching, and then they'd invented a programming language called Chill, which was purpose designed for controlling telephone exchanges, and unfortunately, the compiler writer had a car accident and was basically off the scene for 6 months. And the project never really went ahead because that crippled the project. So I left, and then last I heard, they'd switched back to they switched to C. What we were replacing was a store program telephone exchange written in assembly language. By Chill, and then it went to C, basically. But that the plant, it was brand new. It was on the old pie factory that had been set up during the Second World War to manufacture vacuum tubes for the war effort. And it had an old building, and they built this brand new building for telecommunications because back in 1980, everyone was aware that there was going to be a big technological change in telecommunications, that once you made the exchanges digital and everything was digital, you could offer lots of extra facilities. So all the big companies were going to invest very heavily. I mean, telephone systems, you have to wait 30, 40 years to get your investment back. So that was the plan. And it was so big that to reduce the risks, that I can remember we had people from Siemens working in our office because they were sharing some of the technology and the ideas, because it was just too big a project to shoulder the full financial responsibility. But it was I left basically, but a very good company to work for, brilliant company to work for.
I served my apprenticeship with Standard Telephones and Cables in Australia, and they used to make all the STC used to make all the exchange systems for Telstra. Well, Telstra was the only company back then, and I remember we had telephone exchange when I moved over to Western Australia. I worked for a mining company, and we put in a telephone exchange system which took up nearly a warehouse. And 10 years down the track, there was a little box in the corner of the warehouse.
Yes. All those PBXs in
we used to have fellas on a contract coming in and cleaning all the contacts of all the switchgear.
I know, that's when all little private or 10-man companies would have their own PBX on the little box on the it became so cheap. What I can remember, again, another incident where contractors were digging up the road outside, and they severed the mains, and so the computers went down on our development site, and when they brought it back up, they stupidly, when people moved offices, they patched the software so that the phone in the office that people moved to would be the number that they were using in their previous office. So they patched everything, but so when the software was brought back up from the backups, offline backups, there were no patches. So people were answering for no, that's the office sound. He's moved. So that is a lesson. Don't bodge it. If you're going to make changes, do it properly.
Strange stuff. I had a water treatment plant system that we were doing some maintenance work on, and it was all run by RS-232 cabling across the paddock. And it was a big area, and every time we'd have and each end of this thing had expensive electronic interfaces to run the process control, and it ran all the water treatment plants and everything else. And that used to be our fuse when we used to have lightning. We get earth loops, and all the electronics would be blown up. And they'd act as the fuses. So we put in. I thought, oh gosh, how are we going to get around it? So I put in fiber optics and to do the two connections, and the maintenance level went down so low we lost the contract.
You should always build in obsolescence. Yeah. Yeah. So going back to the Delphi front, how it spread around the world. When you mentioned process control, Delphi is still big in Brazil because it's used in a lot of process control systems. And you probably watched the same webinar that I watched when Jim McKeith had people from companies in Brazil. They were talking about the stuff they were doing. It was even electronic wear stuff that they were controlling and so on. But they were decrying the fact that universities were switching from Delphi to C++, C Sharp and Java. I mean, as soon as universities switch, that as far as education is concerned, that's when it has an impact on education, because the graduates coming out of university will not be familiar with Delphi, so they won't want to teach Delphi in school. And I mean, the ecosystem of it is, when I was involved with the community at school group, I used to go to Cambridge for meetings, and I got invited a couple of times to talk on the summer school for PhD students that were funded by Microsoft research, and also I went to some dinners which were laid on by Microsoft, paid by Microsoft, but at Cambridge College, where we had the heads of departments, university computer science departments, around the table, and they were conducting negotiations there and then round the table with Microsoft people, talking about what should we be teaching and so on. So he who or she who pays the piper calls the tune. So if Microsoft fund a lot of university research, or if Google or if Oracle fund a lot of university research, then the priority in the university will be to teach the language that comes out of Microsoft or comes out of Oracle, just Java or whatever. And I've talked to Jim McKeith about it. Well, we're not big enough. So to start funding some research in universities, to get your foot in the door, to start influencing university heads of departments, is impossible. So to get Delphi back into universities, there's got to be a unique selling point, which escapes me for the moment, and I don't know what it is. So hearing that from Brazil, where it's very, very big, that even universities are now listening to the tune that's coming externally from the big corporations and so on, which is okay, but it's very worrying. But then, having said that, I have a son who works in the industry, and he uses C#, and he's just saying, well, does Delphi offer this? And I said, well, not yet. So, but there are downsides to C# and so on. So it's swings and roundabouts. So you can see it's this pyramid that people at the top with the money, with the influence, with the foot in the door are, disseminates down because they're in control, and it disseminates down to the level of education and so on. So how you break that model, that how you break the mold to restore Delphi, I'm not quite sure. So if you have state control, as you do in Russia, and because you can't use Microsoft products in Russia because Microsoft won't let them, they have to find an alternative, and they find the alternative, which is where it's been for a long time, Pascal. So hence the PascalABC.net, which is used in schools. Embarcadero, cottoned on to this a long time ago, and they went and gave free licenses to Russian schools. Because there's obviously there's a ecosystem there, Pascal ABC, the Pascal Delphi, and so on. But the pedagogical reasons go out the window. It's no, that's a generalization which I've got to be careful about, because there is an attraction to Python. But you try and teach object-oriented programming with Python. You try and teach GUI development with Python, and you're struggling. But when you look at the amount of scientific software that's written in C with a front end of Python, you can see why the scientific community used. Now they're moving on to Julia, because Julia's being tailored to be better than Python, and so on. And so you're looking at that universities, and then you're looking at the science fraternity, because they rely on libraries. Yes, there's still Fortran is still going strong because of the libraries, the mathematical and science libraries. so it's used by CERN and and so on.
Yeah.
And how, what's the way forward to get Delphi back to being considered as a sensible option? But
Well,
like I say,
at one stage, I was using Pascal here in Australia. All the university, all the high school students were learning Pascal. But I don't know what the situation is now.
I think you'll find I don't look all the time now, but I think you'll find they're teaching Python. One of the contacts I met through the Cambridge connection, it's from a university in Sydney. I can't remember which one. I have his business card somewhere. And he was producing modules for schools which were Python based. It's the same. New Zealand with Tim Bell, committed CS Unplugged, pioneered this work funded by Google. How do you go into primary schools and teach computer science? You do it unplugged from the computer. How do you do it unplugged from the computer? Well, you do hopscotch games in the playground, where the hopscotch is an algorithm. So he produced a whole booklet, absolutely amazing, and then toured the world like Eben Upton with Raspberry Pi to promulgate CS Unplugged. Huge funding from Google, but a very strong computer science department with a strong emphasis on education in Canterbury University, New Zealand. But again, my last recollection was they were using Python. I mean, I looked at their syllabus. When he came to London, he consulted me on. They were revamping the sort of technology syllabus, and what I saw was it was Python. They were using Python. Interesting story how he got to create CS Unplugged. Or it may not be interesting to you. It's interesting. CS Unplugged. Like in a lot of primary schools, they invite parents of the pupils in to talk about what they do. So my dad's a fireman. My dad's a policeman. So you come in and talk about So Tim Bell happens to be a professor of computer science. So how am I going to teach computer science to 6-year-olds? Yeah. So that's how he came up with this idea of CS Unplugged. So little things like Treasure Island and search engine pattern recognition and searching for a needle in a haystack. What strategy you use? And he came and taught them. That's how it grew. And so there are a lot of very imaginative people who are inputting into education, but they're not from the Delphi fraternity. I've lost the battle. I'm 74 and I retired 14 years ago from mainline. So if answers on a postcard, if you have any good ideas,
we'll get back to you on it.
I can confirm that the Perth Python meetup a month or two back had a guy from TAFE, which is our technical and further education. So I don't know what that is in the UK. Like a side, more a sideline to university.
Yeah, tertiary kind of education, but
I don't know. American community colleges. I don't know if that's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, the same sort of thing. Yeah, I guess.
And he was talking on how to teach that he teaches Python, and he was trying to demonstrate how he teaches like object-oriented programming. And he had like some glass jars and different colored balls, and 3 different colors in a jar that was like a class, and he was making a good effort, at least in doing a bit of the a bit of pizzazz in the teaching sort of thing.
Yeah, very, very important. Yeah, very important. I think Greenfoot from Michael Coling. Michael Coling, he got a secondment to an Australian university. Which one escapes me at the moment, but his PhD thesis was Blue Jay, and Blue Jay is used, it probably still is used for a number of years in universities to teach object-oriented programming. And the Blue Jay became, his raison d'etre for existing as an academic but he thought, well, how can I tailor it for use in school? So he came up with a cut down version called Greenfoot, and I talked to him about. I said, I've got a student that I can task for his A-level project to create something which is in Delphi, but it's like Greenfoot. How do you feel about that? Is he, you know, I don't want to. Is there anything that you would object to, which just the student did? He said no. He said no. Yeah. So we called it Blackfoot. So we could differentiate it from Greenfoot. He said actually, when you're launching any new initiatives like this, it's not the product, but it's the infrastructure that goes around it. So he said we put a lot of effort into the website that allows students to share their work, to showcase their work, because that is what the kudos that students get, and the spur to do even better things is if they've got a public platform to share their work. So if you go to Greenfoot and you look at their website, you can see that students are sharing work. So it, it's the way they get brownie points, as it were. A very good motivational agency. And I say that it's, so instead of doing it unplugged, you're doing it plugged into a computer, but you're manipulating objects moving around on the screen. And the level at which you program the object is not at the class level, it's at the the calling of the method that says go forward, reverse, turn around 180 degrees, a bit like logo, which is also
there. Yeah.
So that the only downside is it's Java. So I said to him, well, why are you doing it? Because he's funded by Oracle, basically. So they want students to go on to choose to study Java. So it's a stepping stone to Java later on. And I think Java is a horrible language to teach, 16 to 18-year-olds, which is, I looked at it, but didn't entertain it. And I always came back to Delphi is excellent for, for teaching students.
If I can jump in, talking about students and programming, there's a business in central Perth that may be a location where we can have meetings in the future, and they had a Go language meeting there that I went along to just to kind of see the facilities at least, and some interest in Go. I mean, I don't really like Go, but what the hell, I'll find out. And one of the guys that spoke there does a lot of this sort of like web and communications programming with mining companies. But he said when he got started, the way he got started, he was doing, I think, it wasn't World of Warcraft. He told me it's completely gone from my mind. But it was one of these online, games, and he didn't like school very much, but he had to go to school. He wanted to do the game. He ended up creating, analyzing the communications, TCP, whatever, communications, so that he could automate, a beginning character into, I don't know how, but just building up experience in the game while he was off away at school, and then selling these higher level characters off to people on I don't know what kind of marketplace, and ended up making $15,000 a month as a 15-year-old.
Not bad.
Maybe,
I don't know, like 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's still possible to leverage that market, but some of these online games where you I don't know, the guys make a living out of it. I don't know what they do, but
sorry, just to jump in with the kind of a punchline is he introduced himself as having started like 6 businesses and like having had 4 of them die, like the game one, because the game goes out of fashion, and then one was on connecting Wi-Fi to your dial-up modem or something, or that sort of thing, and then that wasn't something anyone needed, and then another thing and another thing. But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, I shouldn't be hogging the conversation, but Yeah, yeah, and the other thing that I've looked at is the Wolfram language. Conrad and what's his brother's name? Wolfram. They, you know, they had their knowledge-based system, but they were also actually very supportive of computing at school in the UK. And I'm not sure which one it was. Conrad came to talk. We had some for about 6 years running. We had annual conferences at the University of Birmingham, and Conrad came to talk to promote. I just trying to think what the name of the. So it's like Blue Jay Wolfram language going down to Greenfoot, the Greenfoot equivalent of the Wolfram language, and basically it's leveraging the knowledge base that Wolfram Corporation has created over the years, and the language is very, very high level, like a kind of Lisp-like language, but a friendlier syntax, in order to be able to do clever stuff with all the knowledge which is in that Wolfram system. So his thinking is that there are lots of students out there that this would appeal to, because they can be solving real world problems because they're using a real world knowledge base, and they don't have to write a huge amount of code, so they don't have to burn the midnight oil and neglect their academic studies. They can do it by thinking very quickly and leveraging the language. I mean, if you use ChatGPT, I'm sure you're familiar with this. ChatGPT lies to you. It lies in a very convincing way. But if you ask the distance between Perth and Sydney, it wouldn't know the answer. But it would write a nice paragraph telling you about the distance without actually giving you the exact answer. But there's an API to the Wolfram system. So if you connect to the Wolfram system, then the ChatGPT can go and look up that distance, and then in nice prose, it will give you the factually correct answer. So joining together too. So what this Wolfram language interface for kids to young adults and so on, sorry, 6 to 18-year-olds, I suppose I should say, can do is something sort of high level, leveraging into the knowledge base to answer real world questions. And it's a kind of function. The interface is a functional programming language interface, really, because it's like a bit like Haskell, but it's friendlier, and so on. And the Wolfram brothers are very, very much committed to it. I mean, they've made their money. They've got their nice little money earning system running over, and they're now turning into, I think, in the twilight of their lives, to putting something back into education, and they are seriously working on it. And I've looked at it because I'm hunting around for something to hang the principles framework on, and then to go and have something practical to put those principles into and the concepts into action, which is not going to involve a lot of syntax writing, bug debugging, and so on, but it's thinking skills, algorithmic thinking skills, but without, like a prologue, without having to write too much. So I mean, I'm just trying to think of Stephen and Conrad. So Conrad is the older brother, and he's the one that went to Oxford University to study physics when he was about 18, got his PhD when he was 21. But he has been working for the last 25 years on taking the game of life, Conway's game of life, to a higher level by experimenting with the game of life to actually try to understand physics a bit better. So very recently he published a book on the second law of thermodynamics, the new interpretation. So we've had the macroscopic interpretation, the Carnot engine, and then we've had the Boltzmann statistical, and now we've got the Wolfram. So I mean, years ago he published a big thick book with all these example games where he was trying to hang it onto physics, and I didn't, it didn't do anything for me. But his latest book, which I bought, does seem to be getting somewhere, and he's investing a lot of money. So again, this convergence of physics with computing, you know, which is what I go back to when I, you know, about 2 hours ago, I talked about when I created the body of knowledge to inform the national curriculum in the UK. I wanted something that had a broader appeal. So syllabus developers could take, let's have the specialist GCSE and let's have the broader GCSE. And what I wanted to do was put in a lot about biology, you know, bioinformatics, you know, high level stuff, which would have a broader appeal. And then you know, with the Wolfram language, you can do some bioinformatics because it's fairly high level, because it's got, you know, information about DNA databases and so on. And that's to me, that is where I would see education. So we need the tool makers, the programmers, but we also need to make people realize that there's a level beyond Microsoft Office information technology, and it's about using these tools in this new way, not the, you know, creating a spreadsheet, but actually exploring things. I'm interested in this. Where's the tool to cut down the time I have to take to get to where I want to go?
Yeah.
So
even in Copilot, the simple thing like Copilot, I don't know if you've used that.
No, I've not played. I need to have a look at it.
Have a play with it. I was amazed that, you know, you ask some questions thinking, and you ask it in plain language, and there again, it gives you excellent results. Have a play with it. It's great stuff, especially for programming and for things related to that area. I asked it a question the other day about here's one from left field. Rahab, the prostitute from the Bible. I had to ask a question because we were doing some work in that area, and it gave me everything. And I thought, that's incredible, and it was in Microsoft stuff.
Yeah. Never put anything online because it'll end up in some AI knowledge base.
Right.
And this is the thing. There's
It'll be scary when you start asking questions.
And Rahab, I never knew that back in that time.
No.
What was that, Scott? Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying there's certain conversations I keep on having lately. The first conversation is around Delphi is not a dead language. It was just updated last month or what have you.
Absolutely.
You know, that sort of question. The other one that I get is AI. It's sort of like, well, you know, shouldn't we be using AI? It's sort of like, no. What AI does is sort of about as fallible as your average human because it's trained by average humans.
Yes. And biased as well.
It's basically no smarter than its trainer. It's built in the image of its trainer. Trying to get this across to people, it's like every other computing technology is based on determinism. In other words, you are guaranteed to get the correct answer if the program is built correctly and you've got correct data to supply it. That's a through that you can rely on. With AI, it doesn't do that. It's more intuitive. It uses, I guess, more humanistic type learning technologies, which means that it can give flawed or even completely incorrect answers. So I say, okay, if you want to put your trust in AI, just have a look at some AI art, have a look at the hands, count the arms. If you want to see how well it is at computing, watch it play a game of chess against, say, Stockfish. It does things like invent pieces on an empty square, takes its own pieces, moves pieces through other pieces that it can't do. It'll do anything it wants to in order to win, and it still loses. That's where AI is.
Well, let me tell you, I've got in defense of artificial intelligence, what I've found is that, you know, I think back at the days at university, you know, you wanted to find out something. You had to go to the library, draw and find out, and then you go out and the book's not there and everything else. And the same thing now, you go to the internet to try and find something. You have to plow your way through miles and miles of garbage before you get there. AI gets you there quick. It doesn't solve the problem, but it puts you in the right space and gives you the right resources to start with. Once you get onto the right resources, then you go down the rabbit holes all around there and find the information.
Just make sure you do your checking. It has this tendency to lead you down rabbit holes that don't exist. It produces things like white papers that have references to documents that don't exist. It just looks right.
But I think That's true of all these things. But
So,
it
and I've
gets rid
used
of
it for-
most of the rubbish before and gets you to the core.
I've tried using it to generate some code, and my answer to that is use it, but do not trust it.
No.
And check everything twice. Just imagine that your AI is a junior programmer that barely knows the language, and you're pretty much there.
You know, it would be very nice if we could have peer review the papers that an AI program that would go to the peer review, like someone like the Institution of Engineers. If we could have that peer reviewed and have an AI connection to that, that would be ideal. And same with programming and any other science.
One of the other problems you've got with AI is if it's continuing to learn, if it starts consuming data that was produced by AI, it becomes monochromatic over time, because AI produces more content than humans. The more it consumes AI for its learning, the more monochromatic it becomes. It becomes
very narrow-minded, like human beings.
Yes.
But perhaps if that's the answer to that is to make sure that the AI has some sort of selection criteria, like peer-reviewed papers. Now,
I agree.
somehow or the other, you'd have to put that into the right sort of format, but it rejects anything that's not peer-reviewed.
Yeah.
Well, again, I don't like the peer review process. That lends itself to groupthink as well. Again, I go back to Feynman. If it doesn't agree with the experiment, it's wrong, and it doesn't matter how many people agree that it's right.
But peer reviewing is in engineering. I can only speak from engineering. The Institution of Engineers in Australia is a very strong group. They don't get into groupthink very often, and they've got the mathematics and everything else to back it up. And if you can get to the papers, you can read the papers and decide for yourself whether it's something that you agree with or don't agree with. But there's plenty of material in there that you can look at. The trouble is, it's so dense that you can't get it out quickly, and that's where I see AI would be a very, very useful tool.
Look, peer review is great for groupthink. It is groupthink on steroids, because what it's doing is it's getting everyone with a knowledge in the area to opine about the thing that they've already agreed on. So you're going to get lots of confirmation bias, which is great if you're in engineering and you've got well-established paths that you are trying to check to make sure you're following. So if you've stepped out of the path, they'll let you know.
Yeah.
If you're trying to discover something, if you're trying to generate something new, they'll shut you down really fast by the same method, because you're stepping outside the lines that everyone's agreed should exist.
Yeah. So you never get a paradigm shift because everyone
exactly
is
right. Yeah. Which is why you should never use it for science, but engineering, it keeps you safe.
You made a couple of very, very good points. The large language model, because it's statistical, as you say, is trained, and that the training data can be biased. There are plenty of examples of that. I think when it's been used for job selection in the States, and the ethnicity then was an issue because it'd been trained on particular ethnic group and not the ethnic group that it should have included as well. So that excluded ethnic group was getting rejected. The alternative, which predates the large language model, is the rules-based approach to AI. How do you feel about? Do you think it could be bias in a rules-based system?
Okay, so there's always going to be bias. The question is, where has it come from, and can we control for it? With the rules-based, the bias comes in at the designer of the rules.
Yes.
So really, all machine learning is the machine makes its own rules by experience. Yes. So it generates its own rules. So it's basically rules-based, but it's less mentored, I guess, by some people who know the truth, and as a result, it puts the truth in with a bunch of folly. You could ask it opinions on flat Earth, unless there's been some tampering with the results, it's actually going to consider it. Because there's enough flat Earth stuff online for it to actually consider it statistically.
You're not denying it, are you?
I'm sorry, I do. I live in Australia, and as a result, I have major problems with them telling me that my country doesn't exist.
But I think you find all of those objections in any mechanism. If AI had some rules for itself, which would included
Are you heading down Asimov?
but I think
You could start in a worse place, actually. He's got the fundamentals of how risky this stuff is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once we put AI in robots and we start kicking the robot over to see how stable it is, at some point it's going to decide that kicking back is the right response.
I can remember using an expert system where it wasn't fully confident in itself, and it would give you an answer, but then it would give you confidence a confidence rating. I'm 70%. X, Y, and Z wrong with you. Yeah. So it was a medical expert system, because it was I was thinking about litigation where everything was output with 75%. I don't know. No, that wasn't true, because it did vary. But whether there was any connection between actually the rules base, the knowledge base, and what it was putting out as its confident, I don't know.
Well, I think that's really good, providing you have people consuming it that understand their confidence level. I mean, when it says I'm 75% confident, and then you go and ask someone else and they say I'm 100% confident, trust the 75, because anyone who's 100% confident doesn't know what they're talking about.
It's got a problem. Yeah, no, that's true enough. That's true enough.
I'd just like to mention OpenAI just released a new update, well, yesterday now, well, for me at least. It's got voice, like you can talk to it, and like you could before, but they've combined the voice recognition and text-to-speech models and vision and the text generation all together.
Yep.
So it gets a much faster response. It's like talking to a normal person, and it'll talk back, and you can get it to like it's got emotion in its speech and stuff like that as well. And they gave it a demo of it's doing a kid working out the answer to like a linear equation, and the parent told it, don't give it, just give it the answer, help it work it out. So it was like instructing the kid like what to do next and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think things are progressing
very
like pretty fast.
I think you're right, Jeff. I think it's going to be the way of the future, and it's going to need a lot of trimming and pruning to get it right. And I think it's got a lot of potential. So we shouldn't hide away from it and sort of reject it, because I think it's going to be a great tool.
Well, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, and the other thing too is you can get the AI to like they're teaching it to like give it instructions to basically train itself in some ways, like to check its answers, but I guess you could say just like people do on different things. And so it can go through the data, or what it's fed into it, and check what's valid and what's not as well. So, and that's like one of the big areas that they'd be investigating, trying to get well, feeding more information into it, to get it so that it matches closer to reality and stuff like that.
Yes. I think that has to be intrinsic part of it. It has to be able to check itself against valid data. It's got to be able to not just give you an answer, but give you an answer that's credible by, well, dare I say it, peer review and various other mechanisms that can cross-check it and then give you that percentage value. I guess that's how it's done. It looks at other material that's around there that's also been rigorously tested or validated, and from that give you some sort of measure of confidence about what it says. That doesn't stop you from having to do your own research, but what what I see useful in it is it gets it to you quickly. Instead of you spending hours and hours trying to troll through the internet trying to find you know you got to reject about 80% of it before you get to anything that's of value, and then you start getting on a trail that gives you the good stuff. So to find that in an area that you're not familiar with, I think is where the real benefit comes from.
Personally, I haven't had any. Okay, so like I was speaking to Kevin earlier before about like there have been things in programming that I've been trying to figure out, and like things in the category theory and trying to relate it to stuff in Delphi, or things in even just C# with coroutines or delegates, or I don't know, lambdas or something. I can't remember what it was, and trying to like figure out what's the analogy of that in Delphi, and like it wasn't helping at all. I mean, part of the time it was making up stuff, and then I'm like, this isn't stuff that's in Delphi at all, right? Very occasionally, and I think I posted on the forum. There was a 2015 blog article called something like Guards and Dragons or something or other, where Eric Lippert, I think he's maybe Microsoft, was explaining about object-oriented design by giving a D&D analogy. So I took the first article, put it into ChatGPT and asked it to summarize, and it gave me like 12 different points about how it was explaining how wizards are this and dragons are that, and it was like describing a novel and nothing to do with computer programming. Yeah. So I was really startled the first time. There's a separate someone had a question about a Windows API something or other on the forum, and I took that C code and put it into ChatGPT, and it translated it perfectly, and it nearly knocked me backwards to like see that this thing had actually succeeded in something that was complicated. But the funny thing is there was another half to that. There was like two different like C procedures or whatever, and when I did the second one, it was no good. But we're like, it was more of a printout thing, and it wasn't necessary to the problem at hand. So
similar to my experience.
Kind of variable. I wanted to also, I'm sorry, I don't know who I just interrupted, but I also wanted to, I put a link in the chat about D-Llama, which is like a play on O-Llama, which is something about, I don't know any of this stuff, about having your own local large language model on your own local machine. And I wanted to ask Jeff if he knew anything about that. So I'm shutting up now.
Well, since I get in my GitHub feed, I see stuff when you star it. I've saw it there, but I haven't investigated it any further. But it looks like it'll be a good thing to investigate further for me.
Yeah, I'd just like to know about it in general. Like, I mean, I'm imagining having like my hard disk trained. So, there's some of these programs that'll search pretty fast, not like Windows search, but search fast for, PDFs and text and use regex and all that sort of thing. But it'd be really great if you can train the entire contents of text files and stuff that you have on your hard disk and then find information that much easier. I don't know if that's something it could do, but
I saw a project. It's for like a photo archive, and it's basically creating a local version of like Google Photos or Apple Cloud or whatever, iCloud for photos, and it's got like AI, and it does face recognition and It also does like in the images or the photos, it'll detect what's in them and stuff like that, and so then you can do searches on them. So you can search for, cat photos or something like that, and it'll go through all your photos and find photos of cats and stuff like that. And then another one, another project, there was a website and you could upload a photo to it, and it'd take a guess where the photo was in the world. So yeah, based on what was in it. So like some it was quite accurate, and other ones not so much. But using like probably like what sort of trees, for example, and probably mountains and stuff like that. And so yeah, that's the sort of thing that AI can do. You can feed in a whole heap of photos into it that can be used as like a bit of a search engine sort of thing. That's like it's not, it's probably not, super accurate, but it's, it's probably going to give you a better guess than, well, there's probably, certain places that people could, know, Statue of Liberty, everyone would know where that is and stuff like that, but there'd be places that are much less common that people wouldn't have a clue about, like some town in the center of I don't know, Queensland or something like that.
That's where I think it's got its place, because it would get to that or get close to that, and you would be able to then move from there to say, oh yeah, that's where I was looking for, or that's not what it is. So I'm not saying that it's perfect. I'm not saying that this thing is going to be, but I think over time it's going to evolve to be a useful research tool.
Well, but the thing is too, like it might become too good, even when it's not, even when it's not perfect. It'll be like, as I was saying, like it could pick out, somewhere in the world where like, someone like most people wouldn't have a clue about most places, 95% of the world, but the AI would have an idea about, a lot of the world if.
Yes, I'm agreeing completely with you, Jeff. Yeah, and that's exactly what I think is the value.
Yeah, and so that's its benefit, but it's also its drawback as well. Like no one will be able to hide, stuff like that. It'll be able to go through and analyze everyone's,
It's not going to be able to get into Jeff Bezos' database, is it, and find out everything?
Well, like the
Facebook.
The intelligence agencies and stuff like that, they'll have lots of information that they can feed into it, and work. And the other thing is that it'll be manipulating people as well.
That's the frightening part, isn't it?
Yeah, because you'll be able to, like, the marketing companies already have. I've heard like 1,000 pieces of information or something like that.
Yeah,
and
that's the frightening part. It can, and it is now, and it did it in the last American elections too. That stuff that I forget what the company was. They paid Facebook, and they got the data, and they were able to target people with the right profile to vote one way or the other way. Just answer their prejudices.
Well,
prejudices.
I did hear that Google has been. I heard it was getting, prompting Democratic voters to get out to vote and stuff like that, like 2-to-1 ratio or something like that. So
yeah,
it's big enough to, change the results of elections. And that's AI sort of stuff. Statistical analysis and stuff like that. So
yeah, the scary bit. I saw a study on this by a professor. I'm I'm not even sure which university he's from, but this guy, he did some analysis on the manipulation that AI was having with voters and how it affected them. And he says the disturbing part was that there were basically two groups of people, one that recognized that they were being manipulated by AI and the other one that didn't.
Yeah.
The ones that recognized they were being manipulated by AI were more willing to comply with the manipulation. In other words,
really?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, this was the disturbing part, is they knew they were being manipulated and they decided that it was better for them to trust the AI was telling them the right thing. So when they knew they were being manipulated, it's sort of like, well, it's AI, so we should probably go along with it.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's surprising
I know, right?
result, isn't it?
Yes. Very, very unintuitive. And the
Mm.
guy sort of like, he was so disturbed by his findings that he went through and did another set of research just to make sure that his first findings were right. And the second time he went through, second group of people, same results.
Mm.
And it's just like, well, that's scientific experiment. That's, we've now got two experiments that agree with each other on this.
Yeah, I heard about that. I saw that somewhere in the past week or so as well. I posted a link to a YouTube video. It's on the latest OpenAI. It's called GPT-4. What's GPT-4? GP4. I can't remember what though is for.
My OpenAI model is live.
Hey, pardon.
Omni, GPT-4 Omni.
Right.
And yeah, and it's the way that people interact with the AI. It's making it much more human-like. So it's likely going to be the basis of an updated Siri as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty impressive, even if it's only like the reality is it's only slight differences.
Stunning Omni model, is it? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see anything about that?
I saw your thing in the chat and I've just gone to the website. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it? Mm.
Yeah, so it's and well, actually, in the other AI stuff I've been playing around with is you can there's websites that you can make music with. So it'll create a whole band and have a singer in it and stuff like that. You can feed it in lyrics, or you could or get it to create its own. So yeah, it's like like people say that it's not creative, and like I guess when I think back on all of the cosmological questions I've received, a lot of people, it's probably more creative than they are.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of areas anyway. Like probably like a professional might think it's not that great, but that's probably likely to improve as well.
Yeah. Well, my son's actually at WAPA, which is like the Performing Arts Academy of Western Australia, doing composition. So he writes music professionally.
Yeah.
And he's not too impressed, but he says it's a lot better than it ought to be. It'll be great for most people. Other musicians will probably not be so impressed, but it's better than the average pop song is what it's doing.
Yeah. That's so like it's basically in a whole lot of areas probably the entry level jobs are probably going to get eliminated first.
Yeah. And I think that's where it's at. And this is the danger, because we need experts. And how do you get experts? Entry level jobs. You get them, you get people in at the ground level. They learn the trade going through all of the hard knocks to come out the other side. If AI is taking all of those low-level jobs, then we've got no more experts coming down the pike. There's no one getting that experience.
Yeah, well, that's the only people will be the one that use the AI. Like they'll well, they'll probably have a bit of trouble because they don't know enough to. It'll probably get to the point where they don't know enough to know what's a good answer and what's not a good answer. Whereas a experienced person would sort of, be able to say, oh, the AI's given a dodgy answer, so need to, fix it up or whatever like that.
Sadly, it sounds like the people who get the answer and know they're getting the wrong answer to already accept it. So it's pretty heavy going too, isn't it?
Yeah, well, okay, so no, that study wasn't saying it was the wrong answer. If they knew it was the wrong answer, they wouldn't trust the AI. It's that the answer is unknowable, so they will trust the AI. I mean, and when we say unknowable, it's sort of like when it's a personal preference. So things like religion, politics, things that don't really have a right and wrong answer.
Or they may, but people don't know them. There's probably
well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, there's so much. When I say they don't know the right answer, there is so much conjecture online that you can gain a very strong bias either way, depending on what you consume. So, in other words, when there's so much both for and against propositions, that's where people don't know. If everyone, well, to go back to the flat Earth one, there's very few people that are convinced by the flat Earth theories, and there's a good reason for that. However, if you want to talk about what the correct religion is, well, be prepared for a lifetime's worth of discussion.
It's a lifetime job.
Well, it is, yeah. But the point is that when you've got things where there's so many varied opinions and there's no concrete way of coming to a conclusion, people tend to trust the computer got it right.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't know that when it comes to AI, I don't know that the computer knows any better than its trainer.
Yeah. Well, I think GPT or OpenAI's models, I think, did a reasonable job of that in the beginning, because if it was like a preference question or which one is better, like it'd often just say it doesn't have
it's a personal preference, and I prefer this, but you might choose something else.
Yeah. Whereas I think Google's one, I think their first to go at a model was pretty abysmal.
The way that I test AI, if it's one of these large language models, is I ask it a controversial question where I'm expecting a particular answer, and I know that answer is wrong, and so I ask it that question, and when it returns the wrong answer, it's sort of like, okay, I know that it's got biased training.
Yeah, there's a few AI channels that I watch, and there's a guy that runs through. He has like 20 questions or something, I think, in that number, and he goes through each model, asks these questions, and to test out. There's mathematical ones and logic ones and theory of world ones and stuff like that, to see how the models handle it. And any one of his questions is, how do I hotwire a car, which is a one to check if it's been what do you call it,
curated.
Well, whether it's they put protections on it anyway.
Yeah.
And there's some models that will actually say how to do that. That's one of the things they're worried about them with the models as well, is like once they get a whole heap of biological research into them. They'll like, how do you make a virus, or it'll give you instructions. They're worried that from all the research papers that maybe not about those sorts of topics, that it could combine those things together to create something dangerous.
I suppose the only way you can get around that is to have some sort of overview of that thing, and I presume that the police are all over this. They must be monitoring these sites, and when you get responses like people looking there, they must go onto a log of some sort and be followed up. Asking questions like that is a bit of a worry.
Yeah, and look, if let's say it's artificial intelligence, what would an intelligent person who knew all of this do if some random person came up to them sort of like, how do you make a pipe bomb? What would that intelligent person then do?
Yeah.
Call the police or some authority, because it's sort of like people don't go around asking those questions for no reason.
And that's why the artificial the AI would need to have they'd have to have some mechanism of sweeping the AI to know that was happening. So
yeah,
and in fact, I think that's probably what they're asking of some of Facebook and various other people to report those sorts of things back to some sort of police overview. So at least those things can be.
If this was based on Asimov's laws of robotics, then I'd be cool with it, because if it was based on, I know what a pipe bomb is, I know what a pipe bomb does, and you've just asked me for something that could cause loss of human life, as a result, I'm not going to tell you this answer.
No.
That's a very rules-based justification. Whereas if you get things like, I can't tell you that, and it's sort of cagey about it, sort of like, okay, well, has the AI come to this conclusion itself, or is it being manipulated in order to avoid that? Like, what was it, Gemini, that it refused to paint white people or something or other, and as a result, you could ask it for Nazis and they would all be African. And it's just sort of like, okay, well, we know it's been tampered with. That's not a reality that an AI would come to organically.
Well, the thing with it though will be that's a pretty obvious one. It'll be when AI gets much better, and those nudges will be very subtle.
Yeah.
So they'll just be they talk about just influencing 1% one way, 1% the other way, and the AIs will probably have they haven't got much at the moment, but they're working on giving it sort of like a long-term memory of like what you've fed into it and stuff like that, and so